Hey gorgeous authentic babes. Does anybody else have a neighbor that as soon as you want to go live, they're like, you know what, now would be a great time to start mowing the lawn? Because I have that neighbor. Anyway, I want to jump straight into today's session because I'm really pumped about this one. I think it's going to be a doozy for you. Because I want to talk about one of the biggest challenges that I faced when I was first trying to get my coaching business off the ground, and some simple tweaks that made all of the difference, that took me from struggling to sell single sessions to being able to close my premium level clients totally naturally, totally comfortably, and in a way that just felt easy and natural, and in a way that the very first time I implemented these tweaks, not after months and months of practice, not after tweaking and changing and all that kind of thing, literally the first time I applied these same tweaks I'm going to share with you today to my sales conversations, I went from struggling to sell single sessions to being able to close my premium clients with ease, and I closed $7,500 in premium coaching packages in the first 5 days. I booked 3 calls using this process, and all 3 of them became my first ever premium clients. And I was like, that shit had never happened for me before. And all of a sudden it just felt easy. And that is what I want for you. Because if you're anything like me, you would know that we hear this time and time again. It's one of the strategies that gets bandied around by all the gurus, that the best way to sell premium level services is to get people on the phone by offering them value. So you offer them a free call, you say, I'm going to give you some free coaching, and then we want to offer them the opportunity to continue that on because they'll be so astounded with how fantastic we are that they will just be whipping their credit cards out left, right, and center. And so I thought, yeah, that sounds good. I'm going to do that. And so I filled my calendar with as many of these calls as I could possibly do. Who wants free coaching? Was basically my catch cry in all of the different Facebook groups. And I did book a ton of calls, which was great. And I would pour tons and tons of value and time and effort and energy into those calls. I would massively over-deliver. I would always go over time. I had a real problem with sticking to time. And I would share and share and share and share and share. And then it came to the bit where it was like, okay, now you need to offer them the opportunity to work with you. And at that point, my brain collapsed. I just suddenly lost all ability to speak like a normal human being. And I just turned into this awkward, uncomfortable numpty, basically, who couldn't string a sentence together. And it was like this awesome value, so much content, so much juicy, good stuff. And then, by the way, do you maybe want to work with me? Like, it's just, oh my gosh, so terrible. It makes me cringe when I think back. And it was kind of one of 2 extremes. Like, I would either kind of go, like, just be kind of waiting there with my hopeful puppy dog eyes going, okay, well, surely if I've given you all that value, you're going to just tell me that you want to work with me, right? Which never happens because that's not how people operate. Or I would just kind of awkwardly go, okay, well, I hope that was helpful. Do you maybe want to, maybe get my help? You know, like maybe want to pay me for this? Obviously not that bad, but that's how it felt for me, which meant that's exactly how it felt for my potential clients as well, which, as you can guess, resulted in very little sales. Pretty much, actually, I can say 0 sales. I never made a sale from that kind of sales conversation where I went from delivering free coaching to then trying to sell them something. It never worked for me. And you might have had this experience before. Can anyone relate to that, by the way? Like, give me some hearts or say yes if you feel like, you know, that kind of happens to me. I know I'm meant to be doing this, but I get really awkward in that transition, right? That's how it was for me. And then I started to really resent the whole idea of just giving these free coaching calls. I'm like, this is a monumental waste of my time. First of all, I'm either only attracting freebie hunters who have no intention of ever paying me a dime for my services. They just want to, like, you know, scrounge around the internet and get their hands on as much free stuff as they possibly can without being prepared to invest in their business. And they were the type of people who would take my ideas and my advice and go away and do precisely nothing with it. So not only were they just taking up my time, but then they weren't even implementing any of those ideas anyway, because they weren't invested in implementing any of those ideas anyway. So I started to get really resentful of those because the time, the energy, the effort, the value that I was pouring in, and then I was getting jack shit in return. And I was like, this doesn't work and I'm not doing it anymore. Just had enough of it. And so I stopped doing them for a while. But then, you keep on hearing, this is the way to do it, this is the way to do it, this is the way to do it. And when I really just got over my own ego about it and sat there and realized, look, hey, if I want to make any kind of decent income in my business, it's not going to happen from funnels. It's not going to happen from posting in Facebook groups. Like, nobody's going to buy a $2,000, a $5,000, or a $10,000 package from reading a post on Facebook. They're just not going to do that. So if I want to be playing at that level, and not just from a monetary perspective, but if I want to be able to be delivering the services that I know I can at that level, because that's the level where I know I can really get true transformation for my clients. It's not the level where I just take them 1, 2, 3 steps and then go, oh, my job's done, away you go, do the rest by yourself. I knew that if I wanted to be able to deliver the kind of transformation I knew I was capable of for my clients, I needed them to be operating at that level alongside me. So it wasn't just a case of, well, how can I make the most money in my business? Although that was a big part of it. It was also about how can I actually deliver the kind of value that I know I'm capable of for my clients and give them the kind of transformation that they're actually paying me for in the first place. So I knew if I wanted to be able to do this, I had to be masterful at this process. Otherwise, my business was going to be dead in the water. I wasn't going to be serving the clients in the way that I wanted to. And I probably would have been having to say goodbye to this little old business and trudge back to the corporate life, which made me want to stab myself in the eyes with a fork. So when you're faced with choices like that, you got to do things a little bit differently, right? So I studied a lot. I worked with coaches, and the main thing that I wanted was to find a way that I could make that transition where I could offer that value, because I knew I was good at that part. But how can I transition from that part that I feel comfortable in, where I can be totally myself and just talk exactly as I'm talking to you now, to the bit where I now am asking for you to commit and make an investment? How can I do that in a way that feels like me, where I don't feel like I have to I'm in sales mode now? Like, I didn't want to do that. I wanted it to feel totally comfortable. So I learned some different ideas, and I found a way that as soon as I looked at it, I was like, you know what? I think I can do that. That feels good. I think it's not like this huge shift from what I'm doing, but it's these little tweaks that I can apply at various stages in the process. And you know what? I think I can do that. And so I made those tweaks. And like I said at the beginning of this, the very first week that I tried to have these conversations with those tweaks in place, I had 3 calls booked for the week, and all 3 of them became my first ever premium level clients, and I sold $7,500 worth of coaching business in 5 days, which never happened before. So, you want to know what I did? That's what we're here to talk about today. So I'm really excited to share this because that my experience with it was not only getting that kind of results, but it was like this weight lifting. I can make money now. All of a sudden, it wasn't this impossible thing, and that I wasn't like trying to pedal like a little monkey trying to make it all happen. It took the weight off my shoulders. Like, holy crap, I can put an offer out there, I can get people on the phone, and I can make sales. And if I can do that, my business is going to be fine. Sounds good, right, Kerry? So let's talk about some of those tweaks that I put in place. So the first thing is making sure that the offer that you're putting out there is juicy, is something that people actually want, and that you're framing it in a way that leaves the door open for yourself to carry this conversation on. So what do I mean by that? Whenever I'm working with my clients, one of the things that I want them to focus on is, what is the big problem that you solve for your clients? You might have heard me talk about this before, and I'll keep on going on about it because this is really important. You need to understand from your client's perspective, what is the big problem that they're facing in their life right now that they are looking for a solution for? Okay. And if I look at mine, my ultimate problem that I'm trying to solve for my clients is that they need more clients and more money. That's kind of the ultimate problem. And when I relate that to my own processes, because all of us have different processes. So anyone who's in the business coaching space would know that pretty much the problem for all of our clients is not enough clients, not enough money. But then the way that we go about solving that problem for our clients will be very different. If you're a funnel expert, if you're an ads expert, whatever it is, like your specialty will dictate how then you go about solving that problem. And for me, my process is all about getting rid of all that other shit, forgetting about your website and your branding and all the other stuff, and just pulling it right back to the simplicity of knowing how to create irresistible offers, knowing how to create really compelling and juicy messaging around those offers, and then getting damn comfortable selling them. So what we want to do is we want to kind of break down, like, if this is the ultimate problem that I want to solve for my client, if I'm trying to get them on the call, if I'm trying to initiate this conversation where I can offer a ton of value, what I want to do is I want to kind of carve off a sliver of that big problem and present a problem that I can help them to solve within the context of this call that we're about to do. Okay? So I want to give you an example, because sometimes when we are offering free training or a free call or anything like that, we try and do a catch-all offer. So I see a lot of people who basically, like, there's a lot of business strategy calls. Or if you're a health coach, maybe it's like, you know, we're going to work out how to get your health back on track. And it's just kind of a very high level conversation where I'm going to tell you how to take your business to the next level, take you from where you are to where you want to be. Or I'm going to help you to get your health back on track. Or I'm going to work out the biggest thing that's standing between you and your goals right now. And it's just very high level. And I think part of the problem with that is they're the kind of things that attract the freebie hunters, because it's just this, like, if you need help with anything, I'll help you. And it just, first of all, it doesn't cut through. And if it does cut through, it's kind of like, oh yeah, that sounds good, instead of, oh my God, I need that. Where do I sign up for that? And that's my main goal with any of my clients, is how do we make sure that your offers are at that level of, oh my God, give it to me. How do I sign up? And so that's all about carving out a small sliver of the big problem that you solve and picking something that's really juicy and compelling. Because let's say, like, for this live training, if I had called it something like, I'm going to do a training on how to take your sales conversations to the next level. Like, some of you might have gone, oh yeah, that sounds good. But when I actually say, I'm going to tell you exactly how to transition from your free coaching sessions into paying clients, I'm pinpointing something that I know people really struggle with. I know I struggled with it. And I also know it's a problem that gives them the shits, because it gave me the shits as well, right? Of going, well, damn, I'm giving all this value, but I'm not getting paid. Like, what's the go? So if I can actually pinpoint a small sliver of the bigger problem and give you something really specific that I can solve for you, you're far more likely to A, book the call, but B, be prepared to show up for it, and C, be really ready to implement the kind of stuff that I'm going to share with you. So I thought, okay, how can I do that in the big picture for me? My main focus is on offers, messaging, and sales. So I was like, okay, what is a problem that I know people struggle with, that they're aware that they struggle with, and one that they think, geez, if I could just get this sorted, then I'd be going a lot better. And so for me, I focused on messaging. I felt like that was my strongest thing to lead with. And so I created, it's my 20-minute message makeover assessment. And basically that is me getting in touch with somebody and saying, look, if your message isn't getting heard, if you're putting offers out there and you're just getting tumbleweeds blowing across the screen, like, unless your message cuts through and gets the right people to sit up and pay attention, nobody's going to be buying your offers. So if you want to know how to turn your offers from kind of meh to really magnetic, jump on this call. It's a 20-minute assessment, and here's what I'm going to do for you. And I just basically added in some super juicy bullet points of, on the call, we're going to work out exactly what's going wrong with your messaging. And I just made it this super juicy offer. So first of all, it was irresistible. It was an easy yes to, for people to say yes to, but then also it's leaving the door open for me to carry on the rest of the conversation. So that's the first thing, is making sure that the call itself is a juicy enough offer that people are going to say yes to it, okay? Give me some love hearts or send me a comment if that sounds like something you can do, right? Taking this big offer and just pulling it back to what's one little thing that I know those people struggle with, but would make a massive difference if they could just get this in place. Okay? For me, that was messaging. Maybe for you, it's like a health assessment to figure out what is the number one thing that's standing between you and the weight loss that you deserve. Or maybe it's a relationship thing. Like, I'm going to help you to identify the biggest block between communication, the biggest block of communication between you and your husband. Like, what is like the little piece that you could help them with that would make a huge difference? All right, so that's the first part. The second part is to frame the call. Best session ever. Yay. The second part is to frame the call. Because one of the worst things that I used to experience, both as a potential client when I was looking for coaches, and also as a coach myself trying to book those clients, is the idea of this bait and switch, where you feel like you're coming to one thing, and then all of a sudden it's like, surprise, now you got to pay me $5,000. And that feels like shit. It feels like shit to do it unless you don't care about being a sleazy dickhead salesperson. And it also feels like shit to get it. And so that's why I felt uncomfortable, because I would offer this free value coaching session, and then I would get to the part about asking for money, and I felt like I was baiting and switching. And so that's why I was like, I don't know how to do this part. So I wanted to make sure that there was none of that bait and switch stuff happening, that I framed it from the get-go to give myself permission from that potential client to have this conversation. And so this would happen at multiple stages, where I would add, like, seeding the idea that this is going to be part of the conversation that we're going to have. So on my application, so people would go to book this call, and on the application it would say things like, have you seen Mel online, and are you interested in working with her? And there's a couple of different options for, no, I've never heard of her before, but I am looking for a coach, or no, I'm not interested in getting coaching at the moment. Like, just a few little things that would seed that. And in the description of the call, when they were booking it, I'd say things like, here's what we're going to do on the call. We're going to work out exactly what's going wrong with your messaging, and I'll give you a few tweaks as to how to turn it from, blah to brilliant, something like that. And then I would say something along the lines of, my goal with this call is to give you so much value that you just know immediately what you need to do to turn your messaging around. And if I do my job really well, maybe you might be interested in getting my help as to how to implement these changes in your business. And if that's the case, I'm happy to have that conversation with you. So from the get-go, I was letting people know that, hey, if you like me, I might be able to help you. So we might have that conversation. A lot of people, when they're giving these free coaching sessions, is they'll actually blatantly say, it's no pitch, no pressure, it's no pitch, just come along and get a bunch of free content. Don't do that, because unless you're just a really nice person and you've got no interest in making any kind of money at all, you just want to help the world, fantastic, go ahead and do that. But if you're actually running a business, you do need to be making some money. It's kind of one of the criteria for having a business. So don't go ahead and say no pitch. You can say, like, it's going to be a no pressure call, like, I'm not going to do a big sales spiel for you, if that's the case. But in my opinion, you need to frame that this is going to be part of the conversation, because let's face it, that's the point of you doing these free calls in the first place. Like, you want to connect with people, you want to show them the value that you can deliver, and then you want to also talk about how they might potentially become a client, all right? So frame it. I framed it in the application process. I would have seeded the idea in my actual promotional posts as well, kind of going, this is what I do with my clients, this is how I help my clients. In the application, I would have said, if you like what you see, we can have a conversation about what it might look like for us to work together. So, and then in some of the questions, I also seeded the idea of, like, are you looking to work with a coach? All right. So before they get on the call, it's at least a seed that's been planted in their mind, and it's not going to be this, oh, surprise, by the way, people pay me for this shit, right? Then I would also frame the call when people got on the phone with me. Let's make sure that we are on the same page about what we're here to do today, okay? So I would take the lead from the start of this conversation and go, okay, cool, Sarah, it's awesome to chat with you. I'm so happy that you booked this call. So I understand that you're wanting to get some help with your messaging, right? And so I would just clarify We're here to talk about your message, or we're here to talk about your health, or we're here to make sure we work out what's going wrong with your relationship, right? So I want to clarify, have you come to the right call? Is this what we're talking about? And they'd say, yeah, that'd be fantastic. So then I want to give them a bit of an idea as to how we're going to run this call. So again, this is me taking the lead. And so I would just say, okay, cool. Well, I'm just going to give you a little bit of an idea of how I'm going to run this call, just so you know what to expect. So what we're going to do first is I really want to get a good understanding of what offers you've got out there at the moment and how you're talking about them. So it would be great if you could tell me a little bit about your business and a little bit about what you're trying to sell. Then from that, I'm going to work out some of the tweaks that I think I can share that will make the biggest difference in your messaging and in your offers right now. Would that be helpful? Cool. And so if you like what you hear and you're also interested in getting my support as to how to implement those kind of ideas into your business, we can have a chat about what that looks like as well. Is that cool? Great. So can you hear I'm asking for permission? So I'm saying, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to listen to you first. You're going to tell me a little bit. Then I'm going to give you my value. And hey, by the way, if you like what you hear and you want some support with actually putting this into practice, we can also have that conversation if it comes up. All right. So I'm framing from the get-go. This part might come up, but this is where we're going to spend the bulk of our time. You can even sort of say, and if we have time and you're interested in hearing how we might be able to work together, fantastic, right? And so I want you to hear how comfortable that can feel when you just pepper that in just at the start. You're framing it, you're taking the lead in the conversation. It's not just like, okay, well, let's just shoot the shit and have a bit of a conversation. We're saying this is exactly what we're going to do. It takes the pressure off your potential client, because you would know if you've ever been on one of these free coaching sessions before, you would there's always this kind of level of tension of like, where's it going to turn? Like, where's the sales pitch coming? Like we anticipate it because we're so used to this strategy being used. So when you kind of speak to it at the start and you go, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're going to do, is that cool with you? Then it's kind of like the elephants, we've addressed the elephant in the room, like we'll talk about that if it comes up, cool. By the way, there's a big elephant over there. Nobody has to feel uncomfortable. It's on the table and we know, cool, we can just go ahead. So they can actually listen to you in comfort knowing, cool, this is exactly how we're going to go about it. All right? So I pre-frame the call in the offer itself, in the application process, and then when we get on the phone, I'm framing that call as well to make sure that we're all on the same page. Cool? Making sense. Give me some hearts. I prefer the hearts. I mean, you can give me the thumbs up if you want, but the hearts make me just feel a little bit more loved. It's the needy side of me coming out. All right, so now I want to give you my 3 steps to have a smooth transition from the part where you're giving value to the part where we now talk about working together. And it says, cool, awesome. So this is where the rubber really meets the road, okay? Because this removes that whole line in the sand, that whole bit like, oh shit, now I've got to turn into sales mode. We don't need to have that part anymore. And this was also a way for me to really kind of share the extra value that I can offer. Now, if I go back to what I said right at the start, part of this is about knowing what your big problem is that you solve and carving off a small sliver. This is where this really comes into play right now. Because what I would do is I would kind of come to the end of me giving the advice and the coaching, and step 1, all right, write this down. In fact, if one of you could even write this into the comments so people can see it, that would be really helpful. Step 1 is we want to check that they got value. Okay, if somebody can type that in for me, that would be really helpful. So step 1, we want to check that they got value. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of check back on, okay, so we've decided we're going to do this, we've decided we're going to do this. Do you think that would really help you in turning your messaging around? Like, how do you think your posts would go if we could focus on this, this, and this? Do you think that you'd start to get more engagement? Do you think that you'd start to have more people saying yes to your offer? I want to check that what I've given them so far has been really helpful. And usually, because I know my shit, thanks Anna, that's really helpful, thanks Kerry as well, because I know my shit, they would always say, oh my God, that's been so helpful. And so I want to kind of reiterate, okay, so can you see if we were to start making those sort of tweaks, like do you think you'd be able to get the kind of like more leads coming to you and be able to be making more sales? And they'd be like, yeah, I think that'll really make a huge difference. That's awesome. So step one is I want to confirm, hey, I did my job well, you're happy with what I've shared, and what I've shared will make a difference in your business. Yes, and I want to like really emphasize, do you agree with me, right? I want them to be agreeing, yes, that's great, thank you so much. Now, step two is I want to share some other ideas that might help, okay? So what I do here is I would say, awesome, that's so good to hear. While I've got you, there's a couple of other things that I've picked up on during this conversation that I think might really help you if you were to put these in place in your business. Do you mind if I share what those are? And would you say yes to that? Of course. Especially if I've given you really good value, share other ideas that may help. Exactly, Anna. If I've given you really good value and I go, oh, look, there's a couple of other things that I think might really help you, like things that I've just picked up as you've been talking. Do you mind if I share what those are? Of course, they're going to be like, yeah, absolutely. And then I would say, okay, cool. Well, and I would share some other things that I've noticed that might fall out of the scope of my original problem that they've come to me for, which for me was messaging. I might talk about the offer, or I might talk about how, it feels like they're really unclear on their ideal client, or it feels like the whole idea of sales totally freaks them out, or it feels like they just don't even know where to be sharing this message. So I want to kind of pick up on some other ideas that, you know what, it's great that if we've got your messaging sorted, but like it sounds to me like you're just really a bit unsure about your offer. Like, do you really stand behind this offer? Do you think this is the thing that's really going to make a difference in your clients' lives? And they're like, oh yeah, I'm not really sure. And so I want to kind of highlight a few of these other areas. Now, here's an important thing to point out. I don't necessarily, in fact, I don't offer more coaching on these other ideas. I'm simply pointing out, like, I'm hearing that this, it doesn't sound like you feel really comfortable with that, or it doesn't feel like this is something that you're super on board with, or it feels like you're a little bit like maybe you need some more clarity in that area. Does that sound true for you? So I'm just basically clarifying, like, do you agree that maybe these other areas are a bit of a problem for you as well? And usually they'll be like, yeah, oh, I've been struggling with that or whatever. And I'll say, okay, cool, no worries. Well, and here's the third step. In fact, it's actually going to end up being 4 steps. Sorry about that. I'll throw in it's a bonus step, right? So the third step is I want to paint the picture of what business could look like if they also had those other aspects sorted as well. So I'd say, look, we've got some ideas about your messaging, but if we were able to really make sure that every offer that you put out there, whether it was your free offers or whether it was your high paid offers, your premium services or anywhere in between, how would it feel if we could make sure that every single one of them was like totally irresistible? That whenever you put it out there, it just really speaks to the hearts and minds of the right people and gets them to sit up and pay attention. And it says, I have to go, but love everything that you've said so far. We'll save to watch later. Awesome. Come back and check the end because this last part is really cool, all right? Great to have you here. What I want to do is I want to kind of go, okay, how would it feel if we were to get this part in place for you? If we could make all of your offers be totally irresistible, do you think that would help you to get more clients to jump on the phone with you? And they'd be like, yeah, absolutely. Okay, cool. And so if you were getting more clients to jump on the phone with you, if we were able to really like tighten up the way that you're approaching your sales conversations, if you were able to like feel totally natural and comfortable when you are having those sales conversations so that you can both have a great conversation that you both end up really excited about saying yes, like, do you think that would allow you to turn more of those calls into actual clients? And they'd be like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I need. So what I'm doing, I haven't given you any coaching on those ideas. I've simply said, like, do you feel like this is a problem for you? And I'm hearing that this might be a problem for you. Now I want to paint the picture of, well, do you think it would help if we actually got this in place, if we had your offers being totally irresistible? Yeah, that would make a huge difference. Great. So if you had really irresistible offers and if you knew how to talk about them, if your messaging really brought the right people to you, and then if you were able to feel much more comfortable in the way that you're actually sharing the value of what you've got to offer and turning those potential people into clients, do you think you'd be able to hit those 5 and 10K months that you're really wanting to hit? And they'd be like, yeah, Matt, that'd be a huge help. And so the final piece of this is I want to say, well, that's the kind of thing that I do with my one-on-one clients. do you want to have a talk, or do you want to have a chat about what it might look like for us to work together so that you can have my kind of support to implement those changes in your business? How does that feel? Does that feel simple? Does that feel difficult? Or does that just feel totally natural? Because for me, I was like, damn, that feels really natural, where I can just sort of say, okay, cool, I've delivered the value on the problem that you've come to me for. I'm going to give you some extra value now. What if, like, it sounds like you're struggling with this. It sounds like if we had this piece in place, it would be a lot easier for you to make that kind of money. Does that sound true for you? Yeah, it definitely does. Okay, cool. So what if we fixed all that? What if we had this in place? Would that make a difference for your business? Yeah, definitely. What if we then also did this and then this? Like, do you think you'd be able to get more clients on board? Yeah. Okay, and so if we had all these pieces in place, do you feel like you might be able to make those 10K months that you really want to make, so that you can, say goodbye to the corporate job, so that you can support your family, so that you can go and pick up your kids from school? How's that sound? And they're like, yeah, that's exactly what I want. Great. Well, that's the kind of thing that I help my one-on-one clients with. If you like, I'm happy to have a chat about what it might look like for us to work together if you're interested in getting my support to put all that in place. And then I don't think I've actually ever had somebody that said, you know what, no, I'm not interested in having that conversation. When I frame it like that, when I really solve their problem and give them awesome value, when I point out when I check, so what were the steps? Number one, I check that they've got value from what I've just given them. I offer to share some other ideas that I think might help. I paint the picture of what their business could look like if we got those ideas in place. And then I say, oh, by the way, that's what I help my clients with. Do you want to have a chat about what that looks like? I can't think of a time where I've ever followed that process and had somebody say, you know what, no, I'm not interested. Literally 100% of the time, people are like, yeah, that'd be really great. I'd love to hear that. And so all of a sudden we're having this conversation. It just goes, okay, cool. Well, all right, let's talk about what some of your goals are. And we can shift into that more discovery call conversation where I'm really digging into how my program or services can really help them to do all the things that we've just spoken about and that they've acknowledged they really need in their business. Cool. Kerry says that sounds natural. Cool, it does. And that's why I was able to implement it so quickly, because this isn't a big complex script that I need to learn. It's not me and to be honest, most of the clients that come to me on the calls I tend to be struggling with the same things. So it's not like I had to really rack my brains to come up with other things I could help them with, because it's generally the same stuff and it's generally all fits under the umbrella of what I do anyway. And so it was really quite easy for me to just point out a couple of these extra things that they could be doing and then go, well, do you want to have a chat about that? And I would always give them the opportunity, do you have the time to have that conversation now, or do you need to book in another time for us to circle back? Most of the time people would book in, just go, yeah, let's talk about it now. And so I could just carry that conversation through. So I would say I literally converted pretty much 100% of people from that free call into a discovery call. Not everybody ends up purchasing the premium package because, you always have a strike rate with that kind of thing. But in terms of transitioning people from the free bit to now let's have a conversation about the paid bit, I always got that stuff. It just felt easy and it happened every single time. Unless if I had already felt like they were not a good fit for my coaching program or just not a good fit relationship-wise, I wouldn't do that final transition. For me, my offer of a free call was a 20-minute message makeover assessment. If I got the sense in that 20 minutes that this is not going to be a good fit, I wouldn't do that transition. I'd be like, awesome. Well, I really hope that that's given you some great ideas. I would love to hear how you go. So, tag me in the next post that you put out. I'd love to see what your messaging looks like once you've put some of these ideas in place. All right, awesome. Great to chat with you. Have a fabulous day. Cool. So if I don't feel it's a good fit, I'll just tie up the conversation in a neat little bow and just go, I'm glad you liked it. Tell everybody that you got a lot of value out of the call. Great. Thanks. See you later. But if I want to continue this conversation with the client, just using that transition allowed people to move through it really comfortably, really naturally. All right. Tell me what you think. Have you got any questions as you've been listening to that? Is there any part of that you're like, I'm not really sure about that. I don't know how I would do that. Hit me up with any questions that you have about how people responded, what questions they might have asked, or any other questions that you might have about how to move people through. Or maybe it's about how to frame the call in the first place. Maybe it's about your offers. Pop any questions in below. I would love to help you out with them. Cool? While you're doing that, I want to share how, exactly as we've been talking about, this is the kind of stuff that I help my clients with. So if this is the kind of support that you need in your own business, I'd love to chat with you about it. And the cool part is you've just heard exactly how I do it, so there won't be any nasty surprises. But this is literally, I'm very transparent with the way that I do things, because I think it's just as important for you not only to know how it can be done, but also to feel how it feels from that client perspective as well. So you know, if you then go and implement these same kind of strategies in your own business, you've seen how it feels from their perspective, and then you can practice how it feels to actually deliver these kind of ideas as well, right? So like I said, the main things that I help my clients with, I like to strip back all of the complexity in business and just focus on, for me, the 3 things that actually work. Knowing how to create irresistible offers, knowing how to talk about those offers in a super compelling, super juicy way that cuts through all the noise and bullshit online and just gets the right people to sit up and pay attention. Haha, so funny. Like, what did I say that was funny? Maybe the transparent bit, but they're like, yeah, you peek behind the curtains is exactly how I do it, right? No more surprises. And then finally, how to feel totally comfortable and confident in these kind of sales conversations, because this was the linchpin. This was the thing. In fact, it was all 3 of those things, but ultimately sales was the thing that I felt the most uncomfortable with. It was the thing that I struggled to really communicate the value of what I had to offer and really use compelling language to make sure that the people I was speaking to were like, yes, this is exactly what I needed. So when I learned how to put the right offers out in the first place, how to talk about them in the right way that made the right people step up and say, yes, pick me, and then also how to hold a really powerful yet natural conversation where I'm in the lead, I'm in the driver's seat, and I'm directing the conversation the way that I want it to go, but I'm doing so in a way that feels totally natural and easy for me, in a way that feels totally natural and comfortable for the client, where they don't feel like they're being sold to, but where, hey, actually this makes total sense that I would want to move forward with this. Cool? So if you, it's funny that you framed the whole video the same. Well, that's what I do. And the cool part is, right, is that this framework, you actually can apply it to everything. If you're doing a Facebook Live like I'm doing right now, if you're doing an email sequence, if you're doing like a freebie, you can kind of follow this same principle no matter what offer you're putting out, where you basically say, okay, cool, well, I've solved the problem that you came to me for. What if we also had this in place and this in place and this in place? Cool, well, that's what you get when you do my next step. Let's go over here, and maybe it's a call, maybe it's join my webinar, maybe it's join my email list. So it's solving the problem they came to you for, but simultaneously showing them, but there's still some other problems that we need to solve. And oh, by the way, I do that too. Step right this way and let's continue working together, right? Narelle says, I had a face-to-face discovery chat yesterday. I tried to remember our call because it felt not salesy. I would love some advice around a webinar. Honestly, for a webinar, I would do exactly the same thing. I would just, whatever the topic is, I would make sure that the topic is solving a sliver of the big problem. And on a specific topic that they're like, yes, that is exactly what I need. And then at the end of the webinar, it depends what you're kind of pitching into, I suppose. But if you're pitching into a group program, or if you're pitching into just a free conversation or even a paid consultation, because sometimes you might have put a free thing out there and maybe the first step is a single session with you. And maybe you treat your single session exactly the same way. Like, this doesn't have to be just for free stuff. Like if you have a $99 special, or, you know, whatever that sort of introductory level single session is, you can still treat that in the same way, where you kind of go, all right, cool. Well, now that we've talked about that, it's great if you can get that part in place. That will make a big difference in what you're trying to do. But if you really want to get the kind of results that I know you do, because you told me that you wanted to hit 10K a month, if you really want that, the messaging will be one part of it. But what we also need to make sure that we're doing is we're getting this in place and this in place and this in place. So I'm just highlighting the other ideas that they need. Like if you think about it like a table, there's 4 legs on a table. in this webinar, in this live training, in this whatever it is that I'm offering, I'm going to talk about the first leg on the table. But unless we have these other legs as well, the table's going to fall over. So if you okay, you're telling me it's group coaching. I would just, if you were to get this in place and this in place and this in place, do you think you'd be able to get the result that you're telling me that you want? You want to lose the weight, or you want to find the perfect husband, or you want to go on a trek around the world, whatever it is that the outcome is that they're coming to you for. If we got these things in place, do you think you'd be able to get that goal? Great. Well, the best way for us to do that is through my group coaching. This is what that looks like. Do you want to have a conversation about how it might look, or what that program looks like, right? So I hope that's been helpful for you. I am going to pause it there because I don't want to go on forever. It is a topic I could go on with forever. But I do want to extend the offer for you. If you would like to talk about the offers and the messaging that you are putting out there at the moment, because that's step one, right? Like if you can't even get people on the call, if you can't even get people on your webinar or downloading your free thing, you can't even get to this point, right? So if you need some help making sure that the offers you're putting out there are really irresistible, if you need some help knowing how to talk about them, whether that's talking about them face to face on a live or whether that's in your copy, that's my specialty, absolutely. Like I have a way with words. I used to be like the go-to person in my circle of friends, like to reply to the cute guy on Tinder, like, what do I say? I'd be like, give me your phone. And I'd like craft this perfect response, right? So that's what I can really help you with. And then if we have those pieces in place, if you've got a great offer and if you've got great messaging around that offer, when people come to you, then you just need to feel really comfortable with this kind of transition stuff to close that sales conversation off in a way that you both feel so excited about the decision you've just made. All right. So I'm going to pop a link into the comments if you want to book a call as to have a chat about what kind of help I can give you along those lines. I would love to connect with you. All right. And then no surprises because you know exactly how I do it, right? All right. Thank you all so much. I hope you have a fabulous day. If you're checking out the replay, thanks for joining us. And I will see you next week for another Mel's Friday Freebie. Bye, guys.